Okay, what are some practical steps that individuals can take to rebuild their emotional and relational health after experiencing betrayal trauma?
Hmm. So if you've experienced betrayal trauma, if you're on the receiving end of that, I do definitely think finding community is so
Hmm.
important. That's one of the things that I know Pure Desire does really well, and is so crucial in helping churches create healthy, good community. Um, and there's a lot of reasons for community, for finding that network of safe people, for finding that group. But one is you're going to learn a lot. Two, you're going to realize you're not crazy. Three, you're going to find a safe place to to feel whatever you're feeling, to think whatever you're thinking, to ask hard questions, to be a mess, and be okay and be met with grace. And then you're also going to be able to borrow strength from within that community, because you might need to set some boundaries, right? For example, around a disclosure, I'm just big on that. I don't think couples can heal. I'm not saying it's absolutely impossible for a couple to heal without a big formal therapeutic disclosure, but I think it's really hard. And I think
Hmm.
that doing it really does help the process a lot, you know? So I think that that's finding a group, working toward that disclosure is going to be really, really important. Um, when you get to the other side of that, now we're talking about grief work. And here, you asked for like practical things, and this is not going to sound practical, but unless you're right in the middle of it, and then it'll probably sound so practical you want to like reach through the screen and smack me. But be patient.
Hmm.
Be patient in that grief process, in the mourning process, in the what does this mean place, that messy middle of like, maybe you find yourself ambivalent, flip flopping back and forth between I want it, no, I'm crazy to want it, I don't want it. And, like be
Hmm.
really gentle and let yourself move through that again in community. I think that that's really important
Mhm.
to not rush.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you one thing that doesn't work, and that's to just try to keep moving on and ignore it. And I know in our marriage, as I was creating the trauma for my wife, that was kind of my mindset, both for myself and for her. It's like, okay, I confess, let's just move on. Like, let's just make this work. And it's a bit like driving in a car with a flat tire and you can hear it thumping. But rather than stopping and addressing it, you just turn up the radio. Like, let's just keep going. We're going to get there. It's going to be fine. And meanwhile, you're going from bad to worse, eventually to much, much worse. But I think
Hmm.
for many people, that's kind of their approach. Well, let's just get over it, get through it, keep going, and kind of stuff down the pain, stuff down the hurt, because there is a part of us that doesn't want to have to deal with the full reality of what we're feeling, of what it might mean for our relationship, the work that might need to be done. But ignoring it or trying to just stuff it down and keep moving forward typically leads us from bad to worse to much worse. And so,
Mm.
as challenging it is to metaphorically pull over the car, find the jack, do the work, and taking the time that it takes, as you said, be patient, in the long run is always worth it, because it can get us back on the road in a way that can be sustainable, versus that just push it down and move on is often, when we see couples come to Pure Desire and they're kind of at a breaking point, it's honestly very often because for years, if not decades, they've been trying to just stuff it down and move forward and make it work. And now they've got no other options. And to just say, don't do that to yourself. The earlier in the process you can stop and say, okay, we're going to face this, the better off you'll be.
How you said, we've been talking about mind, body, soul. You're saying we got to start with the body, which I am so happy about that you're saying that. And then the patience and community, those being your like two practical things. When a betrayed spouse comes to me, or even myself, there's no one thing you can give them. If they say, what's the key? What's the practical step? It wouldn't even make sense other than be in community and be patient. Because if you're in the right community, that's
Right.
key. And it's going to take time to navigate those highs and lows because you've been living in this warped reality, this gaslit reality for so long, or maybe you knew about it, you just didn't know how to break free, but it was your reality and your filter of what is normal, even if it's not healthy. And so, like, after my disclosure with John, my rheumatologist, I mean, my blood work was crazy, my body was swelling, my hair was falling out, I was needing B12 injections, and she's like, "Are you stressed out?" And I'm like, "No," because I had been, traumatized as a child. I had been raped, I had been through divorce, I had been abused, I had been all these things. I've had an eating disorder. And so at that moment when she asked me, it was the most stable my life had ever been, even though it still was not good. It wasn't until I went through Betrayal and Beyond and I started working alongside Heather, who does all of our brain stuff, and she gave me this assessment and she said, "I don't want your opinion, just mark it if it's happened." And I was like, "Yes, that's happened. Yes, that's happened. Yes, that's happened." And it's like, warning, warning, warning. You need therapy. You need, medical healing because of how my scores were. And it was for the first time I was able to see what something was objectively. And
Yeah.
so just like it's going to take a while to peel back all those layers and figure out where did things, happen and how did that impact me and what was I feeling? It's not a quick process, but it's such a reliable process that a lot of us have discovered in healing and getting to the root of the issues and the pain.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that patience is key, and the body is going to heal at the pace that it heals, right? We're often talking about years of
Hmm.
trauma, years of gaslighting, years of dysregulation that was sneaky, right? And subtle. And so um it's not like a switch you just flip on or off, right? It takes time. But I thought of one more practical thing to fill in with that, to pair with the patience, and that is to know your values. Know the kind of person you want to be. Know, there's a lot of ways to say this,
Hmm.
the true self, or know who God's called you to be, or who you are in Christ, or who, that version of who you want to be. Know your values and see them like a compass and keep it out in your hand. And as you're navigating this, as you're trying to be patient, as you're making one decision after another, as you're dealing with the bodily, the health
Hmm.
consequences, the relational difficulties, do your best. Nobody's going to do it perfectly. Nobody is going to do it perfectly. But do your best to act according to those values and to honor yourself
Right.
by following your own values.
Hmm.
You're gonna end up making fewer decisions you regret,
Hmm.
um, making harder decisions in the moment that lead to better outcomes later, and you're going to become more the person you want to be, or you'll lose less of yourself in the process. So that's
Hmm.
another
That's so
practical
Yeah.
thing
good.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah.